Hi, I'm Glenn Lim. I'm a breakthrough specialist today, even though I had a very difficult and disadvantaged past. But my story is one of transformation, and I hope that it will inspire you. I remember when I was really young, all I knew was that I was called naughty boy, because my parents, my teachers, even my relatives, and my grandma just labeled me as naughty. My mother would say something slightly unkind or she would nag at me and I flew into a terrible rage. I would smash things, I would break her stuff. I remember her high heel shoes, I would break them. I would take furniture, I would take chairs and just smash them in my fits of rage. I couldn't understand why I was behaving this way. It seemed like there was something inside of me that was brewing because of a sense of emptiness and meaninglessness. So my parents brought me to go and see a psychiatrist. Doctors diagnosed me as having reactive behavior syndrome and a whole slew of other medical terms, and I had no clue what those were. But I knew from an early age that I was abnormal. Something was wrong with me. So when I went to secondary school, things got worse because now with my deep sense of insecurity, I was not at home at all because that wasn't a place of security or safety for me. I started forming familial relationships outside of my family, my friends, bad company. We played truant and I joined them. We went for gang fights, gang clashes, and I would join them just to be to be one of the boys. And it drove me towards vice actually because smoking was a sense of achievement for me. Like, hey, I'm somebody, I can do things, I can take control of my own life. And whenever I was called out by my school teachers or even my principal, I remember I had a few public canings. And that was like a badge of honor for me. Because of my underperformance, my bad behavior, I was actually expelled by secondary 3, secondary 4 around that time. So I was in a boys' home for a short period of time because that was where I think they wanted to expose me to the realities of juvenile delinquency. And then they kind of transferred me over to another boys' hostel. It's called Teen Challenge. It was actually there that I began to pick up playing guitar. Every time I watched MTV and I saw the rock concerts that some of these rock bands were playing, the heavy metal, firstly I identified with the angst behind their music and message. They were really angry, they were really loud, and the attitude I could identify with because I was also a rebellious, angry boy. And secondly, I thought, wow, they look quite cool. They were idolized, a lot of attention was being paid on them. And I said, okay, I wanted that. I started to really plunge into this industry full time. I was a professional musician. I was paid pretty well as well. And I had a band agent that actually gave us an opportunity to travel overseas as a unit. They formed us together, different musicians. I knew who they were and they brought us overseas to Malaysia, even Thailand and Indonesia to play a 6-month circuit at each time. I thought this was it because firstly, it was an opportunity for me to leave home. I was already chain smoking at that point of time. I was a drunk. I was really into drinking. And then I was exposed to drugs. And that really was the beginning of my downfall. I was abusing drugs on a daily basis. I was mixing drugs with alcohol, partying every night. My night turned to day, my day turned to night. It was also during those times where I began to bring back drugs with me during my off days back into Singapore. Initially just for my own consumption and to maybe share around my friends, but I discovered very quickly that I could actually make some profit out of it. Because once you're outside Singapore, overseas, the drug scene is so different. Yeah, it's cheaper, it's more accessible. So I started doing that, smuggling drugs into Singapore. Not only that, my friends were waiting for me, and without fail, during my off days when I come back with the drugs, they will all be calling each other up and saying, Glenn is coming back, he's the man, he's got the stuff. that gave me that so-called significance, because all of a sudden I had this attention, I was a guy, and that was what I like, to fill up my empty void. So I would bring back larger and larger quantities of drugs. I was coming back for a New Year's Eve party. It was a huge party. More than 100 people, friends all gathered around, and they were waiting for my shipment. When I brought it in, I joined the customs queue after having my passport stamp. There were 2 customs officers who were waiting for me. They probably knew who to go for, and they were waiting just specifically for me. When I approached them, they stopped me and they told me this: "Excuse me, sir, can you just follow us back behind to the body strip search? We need to do a comprehensive search and check on you." And right there and then, my concealed drugs, which was my largest quantity ever brought in before, was discovered. I still remember so vividly. I was in the Woodlands CNB interrogation room, handcuffed. It was a gloomy, dark room, and the only pieces of furniture was me handcuffed on the chair, as well as a small little interview table in front of me. So that was my state. Reality really hit me in that place, in that room, and I felt so alone. I had that one phone call to make. They gave me 3 minutes, and of all the people that I could think of calling, it was probably my parents, my father. I had left home for about 2 to 3 years, so no communication since then. There was a big, long void. And so I called up, and my dad was at first very surprised, and after I was telling him very quickly over the phone, because I only had 2 to 3 minutes, he just went silent, and I could hear him sobbing. So the next day, actually, my parents came to bail me out. I was out on bail, but I still remember their disappointment in their faces. I could remember how deeply sad they were, and I was crying as well. This was my wake-up call. This time it was real. The wake-up call really shook my world to the important things in life. I was just thinking through, my goodness, I just wasted this 20 years of my life. All for what? Just to pursue my own selfish ambition. Till the day I was actually to return for my sentence was a window, a period of 4 months. During these 4 months, I decided to go back to Teen Challenge. I knew of a staff counselor, and I called him out and said, I need help. I told him the situation, and he said, come and join, pack your bags, come and join us in our men's program, the adult rehabilitation program. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So the day came for me to be actually sentenced. And so I went to court, and for a good 10 minutes, I still remember the judge flipping through my case files. He was just really taking his time to scour through the content. And then he put down his spectacles, he looked up at me and says, Glenn, I'm going to sentence you, unprecedented, just 6 months. And that is to drop your initial charge of importation, which is a severe charge, warranting death or life sentence, right down to a first-time possession charge. So firstly, in prison 6 months, that was a time where I think I found my calling. That my past 22 years were actually opportunities to use those negative experiences to bring it to life into this next generation of people who need to hear or who can identify with my story as well. So I started studying, especially when I first came out of Teen Challenge, and I said, okay, one of the things that I need to get will be my qualifications, at least get my O-levels, A-levels, whatever. And so that started on my path of my educational pathway. Also, I really wanted to be a counselor. I wanted to be a people helper. So I needed to get myself accredited and get myself in the field, get exposure, etc. That was a whole 5 to 8 years at least, just to get accredited. And that journey was a pathway of lots of obstacles. But what kept me going was the need to create my own story, the need to tell people and inspire them with my own overcoming of my obstacles. Now, if I can't even overcome, my blockages and obstacles, who am I or how am I going to tell people that they can do for themselves?
In those days, when you're absent from school, the principal's office would send to your parents white cards to inform them that your son or your daughter has been absent without permission. So years later, my father took a whole stack of white cards and then shoved it in my face. He said, nah, all these years give me so much problem. I don't know whether you can see here from the back, absent from school for 20 days without permission. This is average for me.
I found my significance and worth there because I was contributing. I was empowered with responsibilities. People believe in me. Once I had a vision which was so clear to me, and the reason behind that, the why. Why do I want to do this? Because I really wanted to help people. So today I run a couple of businesses and social enterprises. I sit on various boards, non-profits and charity organizations, and I believe in total extreme makeover. One needs to break their old patterns, their old identity and self-concept in order to embrace a new one. So that really is my foundational principle in all that I do. It informs and guides my work, and I truly live up to it.
Instructors are very clear, shake it out, count of 3, invert, cross, clap, must have sound. 1.
Of late, I've been working with the Ministry of Social and Family Services, the Boys and Girls Homes. I've also been involved in home affairs, prisons, institutions. These are people very close to my heart because I was once from there. I was once in that state as well, hopeless, having no one to believe in me, not even my loved ones, my family members. It's very interesting that just this year I sat down with some of my team members and we discussed what the future holds for us in the next 5 to 10 years even. Because I truly believe that vision needs to be big, audacious. One of the things that we really resonated was to envision a home setting, an environment that is not institutional in nature, but a home setting for young people. It's not a boys' home, it's not a girls' home, but it's a place, a refuge and shelter for young people who do not have the same opportunities as the typical normal Singaporean. I'm just wanting to inspire people and the generations that if I, a school dropout with all these setbacks in life, can do it, anybody can.